If you have your eyes on the rap media scene at all, it's hard to say you haven't heard or seen No Jumper or the owner ADAM22. With close to 5 million subs and hundreds of millions of views, No Jumper gives a chance for the more messy side of rap and entertainment. But this wasn't always the plan for Adam. Adam Graham Mason, born November 24th, 1983, in Nashua, New Hampshire, to a humble family composed of his sister, dad, and mom, with professions as a librarian and political figure with connections to the Clinton family. As he would grow up, he would experiment in a lot of different areas, including BMX and hardcore punk, and also the underground rap scene. This would cultivate the young Adam till about 6th grade, where his father would be federally arrested for corruption and misuse of public funding. This would change his whole family's life, as taking the breadwinner away would cause so much chaos within the house, leading to his father having anger-filled arguments and fights with his son, but eventually getting pardoned for his prior help in getting Clinton elected. This caused Adam to dive deeper into the cultures he loved, almost becoming obsessed with them. Nothing serious would change until he went to college, running into friends at some parties where he'd be in need of some cash. He would be introduced to the lucrative world of credit card fraud. Feeling he had the world at his fingertips, he could purchase anything he needed with his methods. After honing his skills with the cards, he would see no need for college and drop out, moving to New York to expand his scheme. Shortly after his friends introduced him to the venture, they would be busted at a GameStop, scaring him out of the game almost instantly. But this will not stop him. It would just have him fall into another venture that he loved, and that is online gambling, spending hundreds of hours a month playing hand after hand, pay his rent and lifestyle. It seemed he'd become some type of successful degenerate gambler, but this wasn't enough for him. Going outside, spending time getting deeper into the BMX scene within New York during his time off when he wasn't gambling. He would also spend a lot of time on online forums regarding hip-hop and underground BMX scenes. He would rise through the ranks, making a real name for himself, creating a Come Up, a BMX blog, which would be very popular at the time. He'd gain thousands of users, leading Adam to want to monetize his work, clearing on close to $10,000 in 1 month off ad spaces. Taking that initial money and investing it, he would open up on some shit, aka OSS. At first it was practically like a BMX merch shop, but this wasn't the end of the road for him. Knowing the heart of the BMX scene was on the West Coast, he decided to take his talents elsewhere. Soon after moving, he was basically have almost a frat setup. With a bunch of semi-pro famous BMX riders, he would support these guys in exchange for getting his name out there. And this would actually work for Adam. Knowing he would always want to diversify where his money is coming from, taking one of his other loves, hip-hop, and living in around LA, he was surrounded by a bubbling rap scene that would take over. But before he would have to hire a writer and create No Jumper's Tumblr page, with the name coming from the iconic Gucci Mane lyric, reporting on hip-hop news, and they would be reporting on hip-hop news and new music drops. This was not as successful as his first attempt with OSS. After a couple months in business, the writer he had hired was burnt out after not being paid and compensated for his time. While putting on many hours, Adam would take down the blog, but he'd keep the No Jumper website. Continuing to do the BMX and vlogging, Adam had noticed the huge growing scene for BMX in the area, and he decided to invest in his own store, opening up a location downtown LA near the famous Skid Row. Adam would sell his OSS merch while selling pre-builds and bike parts. It'd be an instant success, not only with the BMX community, also with rappers. Underground people started chilling around the store. Even up-and-coming rapper by the name of Xavier Wolf would start hanging around the store, actually becoming friends with Adam at one point. Around this time, he would take his love for BMX and combine it with his love for conversation, creating a BMX-centered podcast. It would receive so-so recognition, but this gave Adam a bright idea. With Xavier Wolf already just being a regular around the store, he decided to do his first podcast with a rapper. Looking back now, this format is kind of like a no-brainer, especially with everything we have going on, but it wasn't too many people doing this at this time, and especially with who he was doing it at this time. This would lead to multiple rappers reaching out to him, wanting their own spot on the podcast. He would get many connections with within the underground hip-hop scene, which was bubbling at this time. It'd be easier for him to go from person to person, honestly having very good conversations and very introspective questions at this time. He would show a different side of a lot of the Xan and lean-induced rappers. He would receive a fair amount of use. This would bring in a fair amount of views, definitely higher than his BMX podcast was doing. But this wouldn't absolutely blow up till he met a young man by the name of Jase Onfroy, better known as XXXTentacion by his some 50k diehard SoundCloud followers. They would dive deep into the unknown Florida rapper's life, not knowing much at the time, but this would be a turning point for No Jumper, as the interview would blow up after the release, not only in the underground, but also with higher executives. Seeing they could find aspiring rappers off these platforms, Adam would continue to do interviews, vlogs, and host music videos, and work with everyone he could, laying a good foundation, working with some of the industry giants before they got big. But what changed? To this point, he avoided a lot of controversies, except for when his buddies were using homeless people as BMX jumps, getting some local hate on the news. But other than that, there was a fair amount of clout chasing, which was normal about this time, about 2018. It was a lot of crazy stuff happening at this time. But something that happened in 2018 put more eyes on No Jumper than ever. He would officially ink a deal with Atlantic Records, making No Jumper more of a respectable force in the rap industry. But something lurking was in the shadows. Just days after the relationship with ADAM22 with Atlantic was official, a Twitter thread was created to expose the shady stuff in Adam's past, specifically his relationship he had with an underage female when he was in his 20s. This would go super viral, stirring up a storm of controversies of Adam's degenerate past would come under public eye. Even after this controversy was still destroying him, as another content creator came forward about him, alleging that he had drugged her during a threesome. He would eventually respond to no avail though. After this, it's like a change. He got some heat here or there for being a very thirsty clout chaser and almost using artists at times. But this was a whole different level. Many platforms would cover this, and it seemed like Adam's name would forever be tainted, honestly. Very warranted though. But we would continue to drop and make it. It seemed like after a month, everybody kind of forgot the controversy and everything went back to normal. But this would definitely sit in the back of their mind. At this time, the SoundCloud era would kind of be dying, as some of the giants of the genre had passed away, subsequently being covered on No Jumper. But Adam would know he would have to transition, moving into a more YouTube drama for the next year or so. He would interview many big faces within the YouTube space, including Fousey, Sam Pepper, Boogie2988, and many others. Taking a more drama-focused aspect, this would lead him into his next venture at the beginning of the pandemic, where Adam would create an almost multiverse with gang members, OnlyFans creators, and many clout-chasing demons. No Jumper became almost an unfamiliar place, receiving a bunch of hate from the original fan base as they felt disrespected by the direction Adam had took, turning it into a circus of fake fights and staged content. Some creators he brought in would become notorious and, make their own big platforms and, end up being a cause for some of the hate he gets nowadays. Plus the disconnect with his fans after closing his shop during the pandemic. The fans had just had an unlimited source of content that was pretty hard to even connect with. Adam did a lot of stirring of the pot during this time too, so it's kind of seemed like he was trying to just stir the pot and then take the back seat and watch everything burn down to the ground. During this time, Adam would do a lot of his own content with his wife, Lena the Plug. A more spicy content though. Since they met each other, Lena was basically a pioneer in the snap game. She was basically one of the first people to really blow up with the private snap stuff, eventually transitioning into the OF work and becoming top 1% on the platform. They would eventually make their own podcast pertaining around this business. So basically they bring content creators on there, ask them some questions, and then after, they would indulge in some acts. It seemed like the perfect setup for Adam. He got to express his urges and be with some of the most famous women in the industry, but he also got a huge amount of money from it. But one thing with would change one huge decision. He let his wife do content with a creator by the name of Jason Love. This would go viral all over Twitter, Instagram, and anything where content could go up. He would lean into this until to this day does this with certain antics to play into the cuck narrative. This added to the overall distaste with the fans. He has become more of a lolcow instead of a respected platform, it seems like. In this era of No Jumper, it seems like it's always in disarray. There's always something happening. There's always a controversy. There's some type of fight, some type of split off. There's some type of something happen that can add to the chaos of the workspace. And you can see it driving a divide within the characters of the platform. One moment was when long friend and host of the No Jumper platform, Housephone, known on Twitter and SoundCloud spaces, he'd pretty much be outed by his best friend on a platform that he helped build after Adam did an interview on his show called Sludgelords with an edgy comedian by the name of Danny Mullen. He would bring on a trans person within the LA space. Unbeknownst to him and everybody in the office, Housephone had a colorful past. After a shitty attempt at covering up what was said during the interview, it would blow up all over Reddit and other platforms that Housephone had this type of past, and it was exposed on a platform that he works on. Everybody would point the finger at Adam, reasonably so. But he would do something that would aggravate the fans, and something that he continues to do to this day. He would take no accountability. He would claim that his attempt to tell the Redditors to cover up what she said and to edit out those parts, it kind of fell on deaf ears though. It seemed very rushed out. It seemed like he wanted to escape to go for this situation, and the fans and the people of the platform didn't respect it. Eventually, Housephone and him have an explosive live where ADAM22 would end up covered in Jamba Juice. It seemed like an end of an era after this. A lot of the other hosts would end up leaving No Jumper and almost splinter in the fan base. Their respective platforms blowing up and No Jumper seemingly going down in numbers after this fallout. There's one thing in Adam's past that would pop up again though. The allegations. Many streams were focused on this aspect of Adam's past, and they went under a real microscope, and people were really understanding what had happened. He would even eventually have to go on a basically live with Joe Budden, which nowadays is kind of crazy to think about, especially with his wild case he has going on. Adam would basically do what he does best, and he would take no responsibility for his actions. It just seems like a reoccurring thing for him. No matter what happens or what he does or what he influences, he will not take responsibility. And at the end of the day, that's just what's going to lead up to his downfall. You know, he might be propping it up nowadays. They might be doing great right now. And they might be doing great right now. But eventually people will understand and see what he does. And it's not like, understand that it's not cool. Especially with the entitlement stuff and how he talks to people. Like, I feel like people are really going to come around. And especially with the allegations, it's just one thing that really kind of, turned me off from the ADAM22 content. And just overall, the downward spiral, it actually went down. But yeah, let me know what y'all think about this video though. Man, this was a decent one. I can't lie to you. This is one of my longer videos. I definitely just wanted to sit and break down, a little bit of the history of No Jumper, what happened, the downfall a little bit. Let me know. We definitely working, trying to get these little videos better. These are my first little attempts at, doing scripts and doing, voiceovers and actually sitting and actually fully editing the videos out, making sure they the best I could get out for y'all. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. If y'all got any video ideas, make sure y'all drop those down in the comment section down below. Y'all be smooth. I will see y'all in the next one.